Hey there, this is vocal coach Marnell Sample. If you're watching this video, then more than likely you've been having some issues with your voice. Maybe it's an ever-persistent throat tension and vocal strain that you just can't seem to get rid of no matter how much you focus on relaxing. Maybe your voice feels very weak and fragile, like it's lacking a bunch of power and presence that it should have. Maybe you just have an inability to sing high altogether. Or maybe your voice feels like a wild beast that you just can't seem to tame for the life of you. Maybe you fear singing near your break because your voice just feels so unstable and unreliable and so weak. Well, these are all issues that I help singers overcome every single day. And the good news is that I can also help you overcome these issues too via Skype singing lessons. So you're probably wondering, well, what are these Skype singing lessons all about? What's the deal with that? Well, first of all, Skype is free software that's available for just about every platform out there. It's available for computers, for tablets, for cell phones, whether you have an iPhone or an Android phone or a Windows phone, you can get Skype on all of them. So that's the good news there. And I've also done lessons with people on all of those devices, including cell phones, including tablets, and it's worked out fine. As long as your device has some type of camera where I can see you, a mic, and access to a high-speed internet connection, then you have everything that you need for a Skype lesson. Now, I know a lot of you out there probably thinking, well, I have to have a really, really nice mic in order for us to do the lessons. No, you don't. With most devices nowadays, whether they're tablets or phones or computers, the internal mics on them are sufficient enough for me to hear everything it is that I need to hear. If you do have a nice mic available to you, that's a bonus, but it's not necessary. So you're probably wondering, well, what happens in a typical Skype lesson? So they're usually for 1 hour. And if it's your first lesson with me, I normally start out by finding out what your goals are that you want to achieve as a singer and what you feel is holding you back from achieving those goals. Then I take you through an assessment, just a few exercises just to get a feel for your voice and how it's functioning and what you can do well and the areas where you need some work. And based on that, I then start taking you through exercises that will take you to your goal. With this thought in mind, I'm looking for the exercises that are the easiest for you to do and make sense when you're doing them. So sometimes we might try one exercise and you go start going through it and you find this doesn't really click for me. I'm not really getting it. Okay, no big deal. I have a million other exercises that can achieve the exact same purpose for you, and if even none of those work, I can make up one for you on the spot, which I often do. So normally after a couple of exercises, especially in our first session, I get a feel for how you tend to think about things, the easiest way for you to grasp information, and we just keep working from there. So you'll get a series of exercises that will address whatever issues that you have. Now, with that said, I tend to focus on concepts and lessons rather than the actual exercises themselves. What do I mean by that? When I say concepts, I'm talking about things like making sure that you open your mouth correctly, making sure that you're not looking up like this all the time as you're singing and thus straining your throat, making sure that you're finding the right shade of the vowel for your voice, making sure that you're not over breathing and taking in a bunch of extra air like that and creating extra tension for yourself. That's what I mean by concepts, is we look at those things, and every single exercise that we do is to hone in on that concept and further solidify it so you get that same idea but just in a different context. Then after that, we go ahead and we start applying it to whatever music that you're working on, so you see that The same concept that we just had in the exercise, where let's say if it was opening your mouth, it's the exact same thing that we're doing in the song. So you just got to focus on that, and you'll see that that's all it is. So it's very concept based. I never give exercises just for the sake of giving exercises. Every exercise will always have a purpose that's always going to take you towards your goal. So you're probably wondering, well, can Skype lessons really work? Okay, so a lot of people think that you have to be in person and have a voice lesson face to face in order to make progress. And that's not the only way that you can make progress. I've been doing distance lessons for about 10 years now. And when I actually first started out, it wasn't even on Skype. It was actually on phones, on cell phones, where the audio quality was horrible. And I'm talking about like cell phones from like 2001, 2002, the really, really old ones that, used to be like a candy bar style or like bricks sometimes. Yeah, that kind. And because I was teaching in that format, it taught me how to listen to singers in a different kind of way, and also how to creatively come up with ways of addressing the needs and ways of getting you to feel what it is that you need. Well, now that I've been able to move on to Skype and I can actually see you, and the audio quality in most of these devices is generally better than it was 10 years ago, it's a lot simpler for me to delve into your needs very quickly, because you can see what I'm doing and then you can compare it to what you're doing, and then the lessons are recorded on top of that, so you have something to refer back to, because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to grasp everything right in the lesson. So that recording is important, because you can go back afterwards and see, oh, there was this concept that he was mentioning. I didn't realize I was doing this at first, but looking back at the video, I can see that I was keeping my mouth shut like this the whole time. I thought I was opening my mouth, but I wasn't. I see it now. So because of that format, it allows things to work very, very smoothly. The most important thing to keep in mind when looking for a teacher is, number 1, the ear of the teacher, and number 2, the ability to convey the ideas and information to you in such a way that it makes sense to you. You got to be able to understand it. I do both of those for you. So that's the reason why the Skype lessons can work so effectively. And you'll see in my testimonials below that I've had a number of students that can attest to that. So how many lessons will you need before you can start to see progress? Typically, with most singers that I work with, they start to see some noticeable progress within 1 to 2 lessons. Either you start feeling a difference in your voice, or you'll start hearing a difference in your tone, or you'll start feeling that you're getting more power, or feeling that your throat is not so tense, or hearing that your voice is getting clearer. Whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, you will normally notice a difference within 1 to 2 sessions. And then however many sessions you need beyond that to continue towards your goal, that just depends. That depends on where you're starting out at and what your goal is, and how much time you can dedicate towards practicing. If you can dedicate a good 5 days out of the week towards practicing, then you will tend to reach your goal pretty quickly, especially if you're taking consistent lessons. So if you're wondering, well, how do I go about signing up for this? If you're watching this video on YouTube, then there should be a link up here, more than likely in this corner, that will take you to my lessons page where you can sign up. If you're already on my lessons page, you can scroll down towards the bottom of the page and you'll see a link where you can sign up either for a single lesson or a package of 5 lessons, and you can get those 5 lessons at a discounted rate. You can pay for it either using a credit card, a debit card, as long as it has the Visa or a MasterCard logo on it, or or your PayPal account. And after you purchase the lesson, you'll be taken to a page where you can send me some information, a little bit of information about yourself and what your goals are, and the times that you are available for lessons so we can go ahead about scheduling. And then I'll get back to you via email and we can go from there. So the last thing that you may be wondering is that, okay, well, how often should I take lessons? And the answer to that is, number one, it depends on how frequently you're able to practice, and number two, how much money you're able to devote towards the lessons. So I have some people who train with me once a week. I have some people who train with me 2 times a week. I have some people who train with me once every 2 weeks, and I have some people who train with me once a month because, that's what they can afford, or that's what their schedule will allow them to get into. Generally speaking, if you're a beginner, it's better if you have more consistent lessons, because as a beginner, your voice can change very, very rapidly from week to week. So ideas and exercises that I gave you one week, they might start to become irrelevant the next week or within 2 weeks. So it's important that you're getting that constant feedback. Once you're out of that beginner stage, though, then you don't need lessons as frequently because your voice tends to be a little bit more stable and you're not getting any extreme habits that are coming in. So then you can take lessons more infrequently, like maybe just if you have a big show coming up and you just need to prepare for it, or maybe you're going into the studio and you just want to brush up on some things for some songs that you're going to be singing or something like that. Then you can, get away with lessons every once in a while. And ideally, I try to get all of my students to the point where you can self-assess a lot of what you're doing, where you're aware of what your tendencies and what your habits are, and you typically can know when you're doing them and start to self-correct a lot of those problems. And then once you get to that advanced stage, then you just tend to come back to me if it's something that you just can't figure out. It's just like, I don't know what's going on here. Can you help me? So I hope this information has been helpful. I look forward to working with you, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. You can just follow my contact link and you can send me an email from there. All the best.